I was reading some of the works by Bruce Perry. And at the end of the most recent edition of his book, The Boy Who Was Raised as a Dog, it actually speaks a little bit to the collaborative problem-solving process. So when I love the book, it made a lot of sense to me. It was highly engaging. And so when I hear this, I'm like, well, I need to learn more. And I brought myself and a group of principals, some of my school counselors. We have these kind of social work type positions. And we all enrolled and we took these classes. And we got done and I sat around the table and said, what do you guys think? And they absolutely said, we love it. That's exactly what we were talking about. We need to learn more. So then I decided I need to get a group of people who are actually through the training. I've been reading the literature online. Let's see where we have a tier 1 training and how many people I can send. And after that completed, they came back and I said, what did you hear? What did you learn? What are the things you're excited about? And they continued to promote yes, the more we hear about this, the further we get into it, the more we agree it's a necessary fix for us. We're about 5,300 kids. We have 11 attendance centers. 71% of our kids this year are eligible for free or reduced lunch, which is the 9th highest in our state. 31% of our kids are within the continuum of the English language proficiency scale, which is the 3rd highest in Iowa and 3rd most saturated in the state. Culturally, about 54% of our kids identify with Hispanic Latino. 30% of our kids identify as white or Caucasian. 7.5% of our kids identify as Asian. About 3.5% of our kids identify as Black or African American. And then everyone else will identify in a multi-categorical way. So we were trying to figure out, how do we work with this unique population to Iowa? And I went with the principals. I went with our intermediate agency. They're called AEAs, or Area Education Agencies. And a group of 20 of us went down to a summer tier 1. And we all came back with just our mind spinning of, this is our missing piece. What do we need to do? So we decided to bring Dr. Avalon in and address all of our staff for the first day of school, as well as then ask him to do some parent groups in the evenings. We got such tremendous feedback off of it that we thought, this is something that makes sense here in Marshalltown. This is something we need to develop and grow. And since 2017-18, we've been working to do that as systematic as we can. It has changed the focus of the discussion. It's moved from things like, well, they would if they wanted to, or kind of those dead-end ideas of, this family's always been this way. I've worked with other kids, or I was a teacher for the parents and they were this way when they were that age, to a reframing of what's happened to this kiddo. What about this situation is so difficult for them that I've seen them do this before, but today they can't. And it's really made our conversations in those situations more solution focused. And it also improves the relationship. Checking in with kids and letting them feel like they have a voice and they have a choice. You just can't put money in the bank quick enough that way, so that when you have those days where you have to really hold to your own expectations, that relationship's in a place where you can get some buy-in from the kids as well. And they don't always feel like you're imposing your will on them. So we're seeing in settings where people are really invested in it, good relationships, ability to have difficult conversations, and really a problem-solving philosophy. Is one of our elementary schools. Its name is Woodbury Elementary, and it's a preschool through 4th grade school. Before we began our work in collaborative problem solving, we track many of the things most schools do. How many kids go to the office? How many kids are so aggressive that they require physical restraint? How many kids are in a situation where safety is such a big issue that we have to use seclusionary timeout? what are the factors that make the learning environment safe, which our state of Iowa has a universal survey they do. At Woodbury, which has really internalized this work, we've seen a decrease since 2018-19 to last year. Office referrals are down over 36%. The number of students who have 2 or more office referrals are down 49%. The need to use seclusion and/or restraint is down by 28%. And most importantly, so our state of Iowa has what they call the Conditions for Learning Survey. And it's a survey that goes out to our staff members, our kids, and our families that asks about the well-being and the learning environments, really around SEL. Before this, that survey showed that Woodbury Elementary was 7% below the state average on emotional safety. How safe did kids feel in that school? Last year, they were 7% above the state average. So we've seen this significant swing in kids are feeling connected, regulated, and that it's a safe learning environment. Collaborative problem solving has been a game changer in a lot of our situations with kids with disabilities who have those behavioral struggles, because not only does it address some of those underlying conditions that we never thought about, but it helps us then create a pretty clear way to do checks and balances along the way on. A plan B conversation is a great way to see how are things going in this element of the instructional skill building that you're trying to do. A few years ago, we identified that there are kids in schools that have serious underlying mental health conditions, and those create the behaviors that we see that are unsafe and that we really worry about. In Iowa, there's not a lot of facilities to work with kids who are beyond what most schools can work with. So we tried to create our own, and we call it the therapeutic classrooms. And in there, we have integrated CPS as our primary model into a trauma-informed approach. And we work with kids that usually would be placed in residential treatment or day school programs or out-of-state kind of psychiatric facilities. And we are seeing success with 96% of the kids in there. And they range from kindergarten through 9th grade. And I mean by success is, if they were in their comprehensive schools, on average, they may have 4, 5, 6 behavioral incidents a day. They may have 2 to 3 behavioral incidents a month now. They're not running out of school. They're not destroying property. They are engaged in their learning. In fact, on our most recent state-required literacy academic assessment, every one of our 18 students made growth in literacy. And they're excited to come to school. Their attendance is way up. Their families who we had a really difficult relationship with, for a variety of reasons, we don't have that kind of that difficult situation anymore. They love our teachers. They love our little program. They love that there's a place that their kids can grow and learn and get their needs met. So our district is really committed to providing a full continuum of services to our families on social emotional learning. And as part of that, then my job as the director who oversees it was to gain as much knowledge and skills as possible. So first, I've been through the inaugural cohort of CASEL, the Collaborative for Academic Social Emotional Learning, and have completed their fellows program. I've also completed 2 cohorts with the National Superintendents Association's both mental health work as well as their SEL cohort. So working with these folks has provided me with a really strong foundation about what is evidence-based, research-based social emotional learning across the continuum. What happens at school-wide, what happens within the classrooms, what happens within the teachers' mindsets. And having that together, we have created an infrastructure to support our needs of our kids. foundationally, we had to get on the same page about what are our common beliefs about kids. Many school districts will talk about positive behavioral interventions and supports, or PBIS. And what we've learned about PBIS is that first, it's very regulating the kids to know what's expected of them across settings. Many times their life is a little bit out of control at home and there's a lot of chaos, but knowing that when I walk into this school, if I'm in the cafeteria, here's what's expected of me. If I'm in the classroom, here's what I expected. Like, that brings down some of the anxiety to begin with. Our next piece, though, is ensuring that everything we do based on our thinking with collaborative problem solving is relational. So we've moved away in many of our locations from that token economy system, that reward system when kids are meeting expectations, to those relational interactions. We also use classroom approaches. Responsive classroom is something we use at the elementary. And we have found that CPS has such a great companion component to that responsive classroom model that they go hand in hand. It's not, are we doing this? Are we doing that? We're supporting all kids under a common framework, and the language complements each other. With our older kids, capturing kids' hearts has been an approach that we found really beneficial. And again, as the language of CKH and language of collaborative problem, they support each other and the framework and the thinking behind it. So I would say, I don't want people to think about, within an integrated system, there are going to be a number of components. You're making a stew here and you got a bunch of ingredients in this stew. And I've found that CPS is integrated very well into our stew that also has evidence-based and research-based behind every piece of it. When I went to high school, and I'm not going to say how old I am, but when I went to high school, the idea was, Matt, if you go to high school, you need to go to college. And if you can complete college, you will get a good job and your job skills will be taught to you on site. Many of the things that I thought were skills back then, now I can learn from YouTube, or there's a video somewhere to teach this. The things that weren't taught to me that now we're hearing kids need to have are conflict resolution skills, problem solving skills, critical thinking skills, an internal drive to be successful in something with a level of independence. And so as we think about now, those are our umbrellas or goals for, those soft skills. Collaborative problem solving lends itself perfectly to it. It's teaching kids how to deal with difficult situations and not getting upset, essentially, staying regulated. So something has happened that I wasn't predicting, and so I'm going to get upset about it. Let's pause. Let's keep ourselves regulated and start problem solving. How do we address this issue? Whether it's with a task, a situation, another person, it's a very generalizable set of skills, I would say, across all those soft skills for employability. I'd begin with just a philosophy. Not only do I love that they have a philosophy, but when you hear, kids do well if they can. If kids could do well, they would do well. And so our job, is to figure out what are the things getting in the way of them doing well. Like just that general umbrella of thinking to every situation. It was an aha moment for so many of us who went through either the online training or went in person to Tier 1. Because like so many, it wasn't our thinking was what happened to this child or what is getting in the way for this child. It was, oh, they're just being lazy, or, what is the bigger carrot or stick I can wave at them to get them motivated to do this? What do I need to do to compel them to move forward? Instead of what do I need to do to lift them up and support them so they can move forward? So that first part was just amazing aha for so many of us. And it's so simple. Yes, it is skill problems. You're right. I look at them, they are trying harder than most other kids that, these skills are already there and it happens easy.